As you listen to this story, you won't just learn English, you'll learn how to control your emotions in a way that can change your life. Have you ever felt a small irritation swell into a storm in the space of a minute? Maybe someone brushed past you on a train and your chest tightened. Maybe a colleague ignored your message and the rest of the day tasted sour. The odd truth is this: the world can prod you, but it cannot steal your calm unless you hand it over. In a busy neighborhood of Pune lived Samir, known across lanes and the local chai stall for one thing above all else: his quick temper. If a rickshaw horn startled him, he snapped. If his neighbor Mira misplaced a pot, he raised his voice. The baker Raghav learned to keep his distance when Samir arrived. When his daughter Priya tripped on the footpath and a passerby laughed, Samir stormed at strangers without pause. One humid evening, after a petty quarrel left his ears ringing and his jaw tight, a small poster at the municipal library caught his eye, advertising a talk by an old teacher called Uday about calm in action. His wife Leela nudged him with a wet hand towel and said, "Go hear him. You are tired of being tired." Reluctant but restless, Samir went. What happened in that room and what followed in the narrow lanes and the noisy market changed how he met provocation. Stay with this story to learn a simple practice that can make you never give your peace away. Samir had habits that fed his anger like a slow fire. He kept his phone on the table face up, checking every ping. He measured respect in replies. At home, Mira, his neighbor Sita, the teacher Anil at the school, and Raghav at the bakery all noticed how he practiced outrage as if it were a skill. The market sellers would hush when he entered. Inside his chest it felt like a tight band, a metallic taste in his mouth, and at night his pillow carried the heat of unsaid words. He believed the problem was always outside. Once, at the vegetable stall, Jamal, the greengrocer, accidentally sold him a bruised mango. Samir shouted so loud a customer spilled his tea. Later he would stand outside his door with sweat on his neck and the smell of frying oil drifting from nearby homes and wonder why a mango had broken him. People mentioned his name in passing. "There goes Samir, be careful." His sister Priya spoke quietly on the phone. "Bye, you are burning yourself." That small voice held the first true mirror he avoided. Then Uday arrived in the neighborhood like a quiet breeze. He taught at a small community center and walked with a cane that tapped softly on the pavement. His clothes smelled faintly of jasmine and old paper, and his eyes were calm like wells. He did not scold Samir. He asked once, "What do you want when someone angers you?" Samir snapped, "I want respect." Uday listened and then suggested a demonstration on a rainy morning. He placed a clay cup on a battered wooden table, filled it with muddy water, and set beside it a clean glass. He said, "Watch." He poured a small colored powder into the clean glass and stirred. The color changed, but the water remained. He said, "Anger is like color. The other person throws it. If you pour it in your cup, it soils you. If you watch, the water is still yours." The air smelled of damp earth, there was a soft rustling from leaves, and Samir felt his throat unclench as if someone had eased a tight band. Uday then invited him to try a breathing practice right there, in front of the group. "Breathe in for 3, hold for 2, breathe out for 5, he said. The sound of breath filled the room. Small coughs, a chair creak, the distant call of a vendor. Samir felt something shift. In the following week, Uday gave exercises and spoke in short sentences that landed heavy. The key scene that taught technique became a lesson in practice. On a crowded Saturday at the bus stop, someone jostled Samir and muttered a rude word. Previously, Samir would have exploded. This time, he remembered Uday's cup. He inhaled fresh petrol and dust-scented air, felt the heat of the sun on his face, and paused. He closed his eyes and recalled the feel of jasmine from Uday's shirt and the soft tap of the cane. He did the breathing. He did not shout. The offender moved on.
Later in the market that evening, Samir tried the practice again when a boy knocked over a stack of oranges. He bent, smelled the citrus oil, felt pulp under his nails, and instead of cursing, he helped pick them up. People noticed. Leela watched from the doorway, her sari smelling faint of turmeric and coconut oil, and smiled. This part of the story is where you can pause and reflect. If you have ever lost your cool and wish to rewind, write in the comments starting with "I reacted when" and tell us the last time you felt you gave away your calm. Your words help others feel less alone and can inspire future videos with solutions. We are a community learning to choose peace, not suppress it. Share your short line and come back to watch how practice becomes proof. The learning deepened with a longer exercise at the temple steps, where Uday asked people to role-play. This scene became the laboratory of transformation and contains long dialogue that reveals motive and feeling. Samir stood opposite a young man, Vikram, who liked to taunt. "Why are you so soft now?" Vikram prodded. "Because I am tired of being angry," Samir said. "So you just let people walk over you?" Vikram asked. "No,"
replied, "I choose my action instead of letting my chest choose for me." "Prove it," Vikram sneered. "Prove you will not lose it." Uday intervened with a soft voice. "Samir, remember the cup." "I remember," Samir said. "Then show us what you do when someone shouts." Vikram raised his voice and mimicked an insult, the sound sharp like flint. Samir felt heat rise. The smell of incense and fried sweets filled the air. Children laughed, and a pigeon flapped. He could have answered back. Instead, he inhaled slowly, the air cool in his nostrils, and said, "I choose not to react to words that tell me how to feel." "That sounds easy when you practice," Vikram said, challenging. "It is not easy," Samir admitted. "It is daily, like brushing your teeth." Uday smiled. "Anger is not an enemy to be crushed in one battle," he said. "It is a habit to be retrained." The crowd around them, including Meera and Anil, watched and murmured. Samir felt the old itch to shout, but a clearer sense of self rose, steady like a lamp in wind. The tests continued, and the community response changed slowly. There were two stronger trials that measured whether the calm stuck. First, at the local school, teacher Anil publicly criticized Samir for a small mistake in the neighborhood committee, in a voice that echoed through the hall. The old pattern would have seen Samir storm out and throw accusations. Instead, he excused himself, walked to the back where the stalls smelled of old wood and chai steam, and counted breaths. Later, he approached Anil calmly and said, "I heard you. Let us fix it." Anil, surprised, touched his forehead as if to say he had misread the man. The second test came when Raghav, the baker, mistakenly accused Samir of taking extra bread. The accusation was loud. Vendors like Jamal and Sita gathered, the market noise like a humming net. Samir could have demanded apology. He instead asked to speak quietly with Raghav. The air filled with warm yeast smell, and explained the confusion. Raghav's cheeks flushed. "I am sorry," he said, and put a hand on Samir's shoulder. Small changes followed. Meera began to invite Samir to sit with neighbors for tea. Priya told her friends at school that her father was quieter. The community names, Meera, Raghav, Leela, Anil, Sita, Jamal, Vikram, were part of the weave that noticed the difference and gave gentle feedback. When the biggest temptation arrived, Samir faced a moment that could have undone months of practice. A group of teenagers egged his house walls with graffiti and laughed loudly. For a moment, memories of being laughed at as a child flashed like old photographs, and the urge to run out and shout felt like a physical weight. He heard the scrape of paint on brick, the metallic tang of spray, the sound of a cat scattering. He felt his palms sweat. He could have reacted. He remembered Uday's cup, the jasmine, the cane's tap. The breath counts. He chose to document the incident calmly, took a photograph with steady hands, felt the phone cool against his palm, and later, with measured words, addressed the boys through a neighbor.
They apologized with awkward heads bowed. The victory was not dramatic. It smelled faintly of wet paint and evening chai. It was ordinary and real. Weeks later, the village lanes felt different in small ways. People greeted Samir without flinching. There was proof in simple scenes. Once, when a bus driver cut across a lane and horns blared, Samir closed his eyes, breathed, and smiled at Priya, who sat beside him tapping her foot. He slept better, his pillow no longer hot with words unsaid. The rule he learned was practical. When you feel provoked, name the feeling, breathe slowly, imagine the cup, and choose an action that aligns with who you want to be. You do not become a doormat. You become deliberate. The lesson is not magic. It is practice and patience. If you want to try today, breathe in 3 counts, hold 2, breathe out 5, and notice what changes. The strength of a person is not measured by how loudly they shout, but by how often they choose calm when the world wants to shove them into noise. If this story touched you, consider subscribing to hear more stories that teach tools for life. Small practices can change days, and days make lives. Remember, peace is a choice you can practice, one breath at a time.